What is up, YouTube? So today we're going to talk about how to learn a song by listening to it only once. Today we're going to talk about how to chart a song, and when you get good at it, all you'll need is one listen. You'll write a chart, and then you know that song forever. Now, a lot of you might be saying, well, that's not really learning a song once because you need a chart. And you're right. But I would say that the amount of people on planet Earth who can hear a song once and then replicate it perfectly after only hearing it played through once are really few and far between. I know of drummers like Dennis Chambers, for instance, can't read notation that well, but he can hear a song once and memorize it. His memory's not perfect, but he can get pretty close just by listening to it once. But Dennis is definitely the exception to the rule, and for most of us mere mortals, if we learn how to make basic charts and read basic notation, we can really take, learning a song, needing to, hear it a couple of times, 5 or 6 times, then sit down at the drums and play through it a couple times. Like, we can take all that out and just listen to it once and know the song. What I'm doing in these are really, the main thing is I want to get the form down. I want to make sure that I know how long the intro is, know how long the verse is, know that there's a pre-chorus before the first chorus, but there's no pre-chorus before the second chorus. Most of all, for the arrangement, I want to make sure I know where breaks are, where holds are, how I count in and how I get out of songs. So that's the bulk of this chart. It's going to be a lot of form, like how many bars is this, how many bars is that. And then beyond that, I'm going to write down the specific grooves for each section. And I have my own shorthand that I've developed that helps me, at a glance, look down at my chart and say, okay, that's what I'm going to play for, the verse. And it's instant. So in the verse, if the hi-hats are playing eighth notes closed on the hi-hat, and then snare drums on 2 and 4, like it usually is in most pop music, and then the kick drum is playing just 4 on floor, all I'll write for that whole groove, which is boots and guts and boots and guts, 4 O F, and then the word closed. That's all I'll write. I won't write out little hi-hat marks. I won't write out snare drums and accents. All I'll write is 4 O F, which is 4 on the floor, and then closed. And now I know that it's the 4 on the floor closed groove, and that's it. If it's 16th notes on the hi-hat and 4 on the floor groove with the snare drum on 2 and 4, I'll write 4 O F and then 16ths. That's my personal shorthand for 4 on the floor, and I have a bunch of those that I use for a ton of stuff. That's kind of the point of all of this, is writing a chart that has the form on it, has all the grooves and stuff I need. It has enough information that I'm not gonna have any guesswork involved. When I go back and I look at this stuff, when I go to count off the song, I'm not going to think, wait, how does the song start? What's the tempo? You're getting the tempo up top. You're getting all of the stuff that you need and none of the stuff you don't. I think that's a lot of the problem when people start writing charts, is they either write too little, so they get to the middle of the song and they say, oh shoot, what happens for the bridge? Or they write too much and they're playing the chorus and they're reading every note, and then they go to the bridge, but they're so consumed by the fact that they wrote out the exact fill that was on the record. And that's a good exercise, but chances are no one on stage was really looking for that exact fill. They were just looking for some kind of fill to set up going into the bridge. But you got a little confused by the fill you wrote out because you couldn't quite read it, and now we're in the bridge, but you missed it, and you were supposed to be out during the first bar of the bridge, but you played through it because you were still reading that fill. And now you have this whole weird thing because you gave yourself too much information. So the things you really want to avoid when writing charts are giving yourself too little information so that you forget stuff and have questions on the gig, or writing too much so that you get confused, you can't read it, it's too cluttered, and you end up also making mistakes because there's too much. Now, finding a balance between what exactly do you need and what you don't, it just takes time to kind of get used to what's going on and what you need and what you don't need. So there are a lot of ways that you can write out charts. Obviously, you can write them by hand and then show up at the gig with the charts written by hand on a piece of paper. I use an iPad for a lot of reasons. One, it lets me have all my charts in one place at the same time. They're on Dropbox, they're on my iPad, so no matter what, no matter where I am in the world, even if I don't have my iPad, I have it on Dropbox for my phone. I really like digitizing all my charts and stuff. They're easier to recall. So I use an iPad but you don't have to. You can just write out these charts, go for it. But because I use an iPad, there are a couple of apps that I use that help me get the job done. So the first app that I use is Dropbox, and that's because wherever I get the charts from, whether it's the church provided them or I hand wrote it and then scanned it in, or I wrote it out on Pages or Microsoft Word, which I have templates that you can download if you want to write out charts by typing them because your handwriting's terrible like mine. You can go get those templates. That'll be in the description. But whatever it is, I get my chart onto Dropbox and load it in its own folder, and I have a folder labeled charts, and then inside that folder of charts, I then also have each church I play at. So I'll go this weekend, I'm playing at this church called Avenue South, so I'll go click on that folder in Avenue South. I'll drag that chart in so that that's in Dropbox. It's there forever. And now that it's loaded in Dropbox, that's the chart. All those edits I talked about, the 4 and the floor groove and all that stuff, I need to add those myself. So I'll drag it into Dropbox, now it's saved there, and then I'll pull up my iPad and I'll open up an app called Fourscore. Fourscore is an amazing app that is super powerful. You can make playlists, you can make sets, you can do all this stuff. You can annotate, which means like edit your PDF. So that's where I make all these additional notes of which grooves to play and stuff. I have the basic chart that the church provided, load that into Dropbox, and then from Dropbox, I open it up in Fourscore. And then in Fourscore, that's where I'm gonna make all my notes. And like I said, you can organize within Fourscore. I have every church, every artist I play for has their own little folder in Fourscore so that when I make set lists, I can say, okay, this week we are playing these songs and these songs, these songs. I can go to that artist folder, pull it out. This weekend at church, we're playing 3 songs, but I only have to learn one of them because I've played the other 2 before. And they're already on my iPad, they're already ready to go. So I can just pull those out of the folder. They already have all my notes that I've made and all that stuff. They're ready to go, so I only have to learn this one song. So that's kind of the benefit of digitizing stuff. It's all just right there. It's easy to send to people. If you're on a gig where you need to sub out because you can't be there for a gig, it's easy to send a bunch of charts to someone without having to scan them and do all that. So an iPad, Dropbox, and then the app Fourscore is really, really great for getting this done a little bit easier and a little bit quicker. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna listen down to the song, and at this point, I've written so many of these, both to prepare for church and at recording sessions and all this stuff, that this is a really quick process for me. It literally only takes me one playthrough. I might have to, if there's a weird thing that happens in the bridge or something, I might have to pause it for a second, but for the most part, I can play the song through once. And because the form of the song is already there on most of these charts, I just write it real quick and we're done. For you, it might take you a lot longer, and that's okay. This process will get quicker, but it's worth it because now that you have this chart that's so well written, in 6 weeks, when you're prepping for your gig or you're playing at church or whatever, you already have this chart written. If they call this song up again, that's a song that you don't have to practice, you don't have to prepare for, you don't have to do anything. So I'm gonna sit at the computer, chart this song, and I'll be back and we'll talk about it. I would play the song and make the notes in real time, but I'll get dinged for copyright, and that's just kind of how the internet works. So here we go. We have the song charted. So you'll see 2 different charts. So the first chart, and the chart I'm actually going to use at the gig, is a Nashville numbers chart, which I'm not going to get into that here, but maybe I will one day. Put in the comments if you want to see more about the Nashville number system, because it's something that I use all the time, almost every day. So if you want to know more about that, let me know. But if you look at the chart, which again, these charts you can download in the link in the description, but if you look at this chart, you'll see all the numbers you see that were originally typed there. All of that represent the chords. So each number you see, so when you see a 1, that's a whole bar of 1 chord. Every number you see represents 1 whole bar. So in the intro, you can see there's a 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 5, 6 minor, 4. What that means is that there are 8 bars, the intro. So the first 4 bars are all the 1 chord, and then the 5th bar is a 1 chord, the 6th bar is a 5 chord, the 7th bar is a 6 minor chord, and then the 8th bar is a 4 chord. The intro is 8 bars. So what I did is on the track, it actually starts like playing with the verse feel groove, but I'm actually going to start it on the ride cymbal because it's live. This church likes to start things up and action-packed, and it's the first song, so I'm just going to start it on the ride cymbal. I'm not going to start down and then go up and then go back down for the verse. I'm just going to start big. So I wrote ride cymbal because I'm going to be on the ride cymbal. And then next to it, you'll see the kick pattern and the snare pattern. This is super important. I think part of what people get wrong a lot is, oh, I know that song because, there's no breaks or anything. You just start it and you end it. But what a lot of people miss out is, yeah, there's no breaks, so you didn't play through any stops or, anything like that. But you didn't get the kick pattern right. You just played a boom, ka, boom, ka, when really the groove is do, ka, ka, ka. There's a big difference between that and do, ka, do, ka. That's much more driving and doesn't have the same vibe as do, ka, do, ka. Kick patterns are super important. That's like half of the reason I write a chart is because I need to know that kick pattern, because when the bass player shows up, he's going to know the kick pattern. We've never played together, but he's going to know the kick pattern. So I need to know the kick pattern as well, and that's part of what is so important about these charts. So that's the intro, 8 bars, great. Get to the verse and you'll see it says there's a number 1 and then some words and then number 2 and then some words because there's a repeat. We'll get to that later, but just know, number 1, the first verse, which again is 8 bars, I'm riding the 16th rim. That's what that note is. And because I didn't write any other thing next to it, I know it's the same kick and snare pattern as the intro. If it had changed from the intro, I would have notated or written a different note to let me know, hey, it's a different kick pattern and snare pattern, but it's not. It's the same kick pattern and snare pattern. So then you go into the chorus, and the first chorus, it's a 4 on the floor march. And then there's a lot of different marches you could play, so I want to play the exact march that the track has. So I wrote out the exact pattern next to the chorus. So you'll see at the end of that chorus, there's a repeat sign, and I put blue around it. And you'll see that the other repeat sign where I'm supposed to go back to also has blue. The thing you don't want to do when you're performing is searching your chart for where to go next. You should never be searching your chart for where to go next. And repeat signs, which the other chart I'll show you does not have repeat signs because I actually hate them. But when there are repeat signs, I make sure that I make extra clear, this is where we're going, this is where this repeat goes, so that I never have to guess. Go back to the intro, but halfway through the intro, play that on the ride cymbal. The second verse is closed 16th notes, same kick pattern, same snare pattern, great. Get to the second chorus, and this note is kind of crazy. This stretches the limit of this being this shorthand, but I'm gonna know what it means because I've done this a ton and whatever. But this is the kind of note where you might get tripped up. The second chorus, it says 4 on floor ride 8ths, easy. 4 on the floor with the kick drum, playing ride cymbal with 8th notes, great, that's super easy. And then it says tom accents SNO4. Now what does that mean? What it means, and I just know this because I've done this a bunch and this is kind of typical for worship music. This note might not work for you, might not be specific enough, but it works for me. And what it means is tom accents, take the 2 tom accents from that marching pattern, move them to the toms, and then the snare drum is on beat 4. So that's what that note means. Then you'll see after that there's a turn that's 4 bars long, and I have a diamond around it. And what that means in the Nashville number system, when you have a diamond, that means a hold on that note. It means you hit it and you let it ring. So I'm going to crash on that beat 1 of the turn and then be out. And then on the bridge, I'm going to come in with shaker. Build, 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 more build. Get to that chorus at the end, diamond for the first 4 bars, build the second 4 bars, and then those last 8 bars, it's the ride groove, but the 4 on floor groove. not the same groove I played in the last course, and not the groove I'm about to play in the outro. And then we get to the outro, ride cymbal just like that. So that's the Nashville numbers version. Here's the other version, which you'll see on here. I just counted bars. So you'll see the intro, there's a big 8. That means 8 bars. And then you'll see the ride cymbal in red, and you'll see the groove in red. Notice how I put all the numbers and the section markers in black, and then all of the other colored stuff, the grooves and whatever, in red. That's gonna help my eye when I'm playing. I'm not gonna have to look down and say, okay, what is the groove and what is the section? I'm just gonna be able to look down and say, what's the groove for the bridge? And I know that that's gonna be in red. So I like to have those separation. It's a small little thing, but when it's live and you're kind of worried because your hi-hat pedal is slipping away and the snare is out of tune, so you're kind of trying to think of when the next time you'll be able to tune that snare drum up is. You don't want to be also thinking, okay, so what down here is groove and what is section and all that stuff. So most of this is just the same. You'll see that those little squares next to it, there's an I for the intro, the V for the verse, the C for the chorus, T. And then you'll also notice, if you skip all the way down to the bridge, you'll notice that I have 8, and then a dot, and then 8, and then a dot, and then 4. So that whole section is 20 bars long. That's really quick mental math, huh? That whole section is 20 bars long. I am not gonna write a 20 there because a couple reasons. One, I feel music, most of us probably feel music most naturally in bars in 2s, 4s, and 8s. So if I write 20 down there, I'm just gonna see that and say, what does 20 bars feel like? I don't know. I need to break that up into smaller sections. So I also break it up, not just because 20 is like a weird number you don't encounter that much in music, but also because each section does something different, and I want to be able to notate that. So the first 8 bars, I'm playing shaker, great. The second 8 bars, I'm building, great. And then the last 4 bars, it's like big and it's like going crazy, great. And then the chorus, you'll see there's 4 bars down, and again there's a diamond. And then there's a build on the next 4 bars, great, and then ride cymbal 4 on floor, and then we're out. So these charts do get complicated, but this is a really good starting point. And again, these charts are available for download, but this is just this is just the way I do it. The point of this video is not you need to rip off exactly what I'm doing and then you'll be great, but you need to figure out what your brain needs when you're playing music live to get through a song and play it from start to finish exactly like you need. It's very easy to listen to a song and approximate most of what it is, but not play it perfectly. My goal as a professional, when an artist hires me or a church wants me to come in and play, my goal is to not, it's pretty much there, like pretty much, because a lot of times I don't know the musicians I'm playing with, because in Nashville it's very common. You don't know the musicians you're playing with, you've never met them, you've never played on this stage before, you've never played this drum kit before, and you also have never played these songs before. And a lot of times, for some gigs you just show up and you play and you don't get any rehearsal. But for church, usually there's one run through of songs and then you go play the first service. So for me, it's really important that first time we play the songs, whether it's for the show, that's most important, that I know the parts perfectly then, but even if it's just for that first run through, that's the first run through before we're actually gonna play it. That's not time for me to figure out my parts. That's time for me to perfect fitting into this exact group of musicians, and it's a time for us as a group to, make sure that the arrangement works live, and like maybe we cut the bridge in half because it feels a little long or whatever. But it's not time for me to figure out, wait, what do the drums do in the bridge? Oh, and then when we go back to the chorus, is it down? No, my goal when I go in is I know this song I have everything I need in front of me. If we want to change stuff, that's cool. I can make those notes as well. But I know the song exactly like I need to, because that's what people are hiring me to do. So those are the charts. Like I said, all the charts that I went over today, you can download those in the link in the description if you just want to look at them. And I also have chart templates there. The chart templates are really going to help you if, as you can see, the handwritten copy of this chart is a little sloppy. I wrote it super fast, and I'm actually not going to use it on Sunday, so it doesn't matter. But ideally, you want your charts to be as neat and clean and readable as possible, and that's also why I usually type out charts, especially if I'm a band leader, I'm going to send it out to other people. I do not want to force people to read my handwriting. I'm going to let a computer handle that. So if you want templates to load in Pages for Mac or Microsoft Word for PC or Mac, those are also there. So you'll get 2 templates and then these 2 versions of the same chart that I worked through, so you can check it out for yourself. How do you learn your music for church or gigs? Put that in the comments. Do you chart? Put that in the comments. Like, if you have questions, put that in the comments. And then also hit subscribe if you like this. You know, it really mean a lot. I'm coming out with new videos every week. So hit subscribe, hit that notification bell, and then that's it. I'll see you in the next one.